How to create an animated GIF on a touchscreen Chromebook using Photopea. Okay, so we're going to go to the website photopea.com, and I'm just going to type it into the address bar. It's www.photopea.com. And you're going to do File, New, and you're going to use very, very specific proportions. So first of all, let's change pixels to inches, and we're going to change the DPI to 300, because if you do the default, which is 72 DPI, for drawing it tends to pixelate the drawing when you zoom in. Now, as far as the width and height, you want the height to be 9 inches, and you want the width to be 16. 16 by 9 is the default size for a YouTube video. So let's go with that. And we're going to hit create. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do layer, new layer. Now this is a very specific tutorial. It's for if you have a Chromebook and the Chromebook has a touch screen. So everything I'm going to be doing is going to be done using the touch screen. So the foreground color is going to be black and the background color is going to be white. You can see these squares here. And I'm going to be using the brush tool. And I'm going to be clicking on this, which will give stylus pressure control, which means that if I press harder, the line is fatter. If I press less hard, the line is thinner. So again, this isn't something you're going to be doing with a mouse. This is something you're going to be doing with your finger. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few practice swipes just to see what I'm getting here. And I'm going to enlarge the brush tool until it's really what I want. So let's see. So you see how it kind of gives a jaggedy look to it. So let's see what happens if we turn this smoothing on. You don't want to turn the smoothing on too far, because if it's smooth too much, it can make the lines lag. There can be a little bit of a lag. You see how the lines look less jerky and more smooth if you do that. So let me show you what happens if you put it at 100%. The smoothing might look great, but there may be a lag between when you touch the screen and when the line appears. Yeah. It looks okay, so I'm going to keep it at 100%. I may push it down, but I think the line quality looks a little better with the smoothing on. So I put the smoothing at 100% and I changed it to pressure sensitive. And now I'm going to just do layer, delete, and that will delete this layer. And now I'm going to create a new layer. You never want to create on the background. You always want to create using a new layer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to create a sea monster. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a squiggly line. But I'm going to leave enough room here for the head. This is the sea monster's body. And now I'm going to very lightly draw the back of the sea monster. I don't really like that, so if I do Control Z, I can get rid of the last thing I did. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here, and you can just take your two fingers, and if you push them on the screen, it's kind of like how you do on an iPhone. You'll be able to, just touching the screen, zoom in. So I'm thinking that I want to create spines along the back of my guy, and I really want the lines to be a little thinner. So I'm going to make my lines thinner. And that's all too thin. It's only 3 pixels. So you can see how I'm adjusting the lines. I just go to the up here to the left-hand corner, and you can adjust the size of your lines. So let's see. Now you see how much more control I have when I zoom in? But there's a little bit of a lag in the line, which I'm not loving. So I think I may need to push the smoothing down. I think when you have the smoothing on, the computer has to think about it for a little bit, so before the line gets committed onto the screen. So it's a mixed bag with the smoothing. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it makes it laggy. You have to find that balance. It might have to do with things like the strength of your Wi-Fi and who else is using the network. So this looks a little sloppy. I'm going to show you where the eraser is hidden. If you go to the brush tool and you click on it, hidden underneath it is going to be the eraser tool. And the eraser tool is very similar to the brush tool in that you can go up here and make it bigger or smaller. And you can also control whether it's pressure sensitive or not. Like if you press harder on it, it'll erase a bigger area. If you erase more lightly, it'll erase a smaller area. So that's kind of nice. You can almost draw with the eraser. So I'm really going to play around with this. I think I'm going to speed up the camera at this point so that you don't have to waste time. So one of the things that you're going to need to do that's really super important for this project is close any gaps. You don't want any gaps in your lines. All right, so let me go here and give him a cute little tail. And the more you draw on a screen with Photopea, the more comfortable you will get drawing on the screen. Touch screens are just lovely. Erase here. All right, so I've got the basic body. It's very cartoony and kind of quick, but I think it does the job. Okay, so now I have to worry about his mouth. Now, for the purpose of this assignment, I want the mouth to be open. So I'm going to go here back to my brush tool, and I'm going to make the mouth very, very open by making a less than sign inside where the mouth's going to be. That way I know the mouth is very open. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to make his bottom teeth, and then I need to zoom in and make his top teeth, but they can't touch his bottom teeth. There can't be any touching or overlapping, and I'll give him some big fangy teeth in the front. Okay, and you'll see why there can't be any touching or overlapping later. That's good for now, for what I'm looking for. So I'm hoping that this area is kind of closed off and there's nothing inside here. I'm going to now take my eraser and see if I can get rid of some of the spots outside the picture without hurting the picture itself. Okay, so now my next thing is I'm going to merge the layers. First of all, I'm going to unlock the background, and then I'm going to go to the top layer and I do layer, merge down. So now that I've merged the layers, I'm going to take my magic wand and I'm going to delete the background. So I just press in the background with my finger and then hit the backspace key. And that gets rid of the background. Okay? So now it's just my little monster. So now I want to actually make my monster a little bit smaller because, so let me just do select, deselect. I want the monster to be a little bit smaller because I want him to have room to move around. So I'm going to do edit, transform, scale. Okay? And I'm just going to push down the corner. And then I'm going to move him over here so he's got lots of room to play and move. All right, now I'm going to hit the check mark. And now I'm going to zoom in here, and I need to add some color to my little monster. So I'm going to do select color range. And the color that I want to select is the white. Okay, so now only the white is selected, nothing else. There we go, and now I hit OK. All right, now this underneath here is the gradient tool. I'm going to click on that. Now I want to change the foreground color to kind of a blue. That's a pretty blue. Okay, and now I want to change the, I'm going to hit OK. And I want to change the background color to a green. Maybe a blue-green, like a seafoam green. All right, that's good. I like that one. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. Now I have the gradient tool up. All I have to do is click somewhere on the right-hand side and drag it to the left-hand side. Okay, or drag it from the left to the right, or from the top to the bottom. Okay. I kind of like from the top to the bottom from the top. Okay, I kind of like that. So I'm going to do select, deselect. And now I'm going to just focus on the eye. I want the eye to be white. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm going to use the wand. I'm going to click in here. And I'm going to do edit, fill, white. Edit, fill. And the color is going to be white. There's a drop-down menu, so I clicked white, and now I hit OK. So now select, deselect, and I'm gonna just take my two fingers and I'm gonna make him smaller. I'm gonna do select, deselect, select, deselect again. So now it's just him. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer, layer, duplicate layer. Okay, so now I've got a duplicate layer called layer 1. I'm actually going to go back to this background layer, and if I just press on the word background, with my, actually I'm going to use my keypad. If I double click with the keypad, I'm going to change this to layer 1. Actually, I'm going to change it to underscore A underscore layer 1. And then I'm going to change this one to _A _ layer 2. And you're probably going to need to keep renaming the layers as you go. But now I'm in layer 2, and now I'm going to do something really fun and cool. I'm going to do Edit, Puppet Warp. Okay. Now, Puppet Warp is a little tricky to use the first time you use it because you tend to accidentally rotate the character. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to add some pins that will keep the character still. And I'm going to now rotate the head, and hopefully the rest of it won't rotate. And I think what I'm going to also do is open the mouth a little. Now, I don't want to open it that much because it looks weird. It doesn't look like it's actually opening. So I'm going to make a rotation point here and then pull, and hopefully it won't. Well, no. So it's easy to mess up with Puppet Warp. If that happens, just click the X. And then you can start again. But actually, that doesn't look bad. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to hold the check mark there. So now, let me just hide layer 1 because now it gets confusing. And I'm going to take layer 2, and I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer. Layer, duplicate layer, and it's called layer 2 copy. I'm going to change that to layer 3. Okay, but it's still got that _A _ in it, which is super important. So now I'm going to take this copy. I'm going to do Edit, Puppet Warp. And now I'm going to lay down some pins on the front part of my dragon. And on the back part. And now, and in the middle. And I'm going to open the mouth more. Okay, that looks stupid. Let me push it up. Okay, that's good. So now his jaw open more, and I think I'm going to have his ear move. I don't want him to move too much because this is for an animation, and I don't want too many things going on at once because it'll be hard for your eye to follow. But maybe if I drop some pins back here, I can have his tail go up. Not that much. No, that's too much. Okay, so his tail's going to go up like that. Okay, so now I hit the check mark. And now I'm going to hide the layer below, so it's just this top layer. Okay, so now I'm going to, instead of duplicate, let me just duplicate this layer. Let's see, layer, duplicate layer. Okay, and now I'm going to just use my mouse, double click, well, not my mouse, my keypad. And I'm going to call it, instead of layer 3 copy, I'm going to call it layer 4. Let's get rid of the word copy and just call it layer 4. Okay. And now I'm going to go layer, duplicate layer. Let me just hide this one, and I'm going to go to this layer 4 now. I'm going to hide layer 3. No, let me not hide layer 3. Let me go to layer 4. Okay, I'm in layer 4, and I'm going to do Edit, Puppet Warp. Okay, so one of the things that I now want to do is I believe I want to close the mouth. So let me see what happens. Okay. All right. And now I'm going to hit the check mark. And now you notice how I took the layer underneath and I copied it. So now let me hide this layer. Let me take the layer here. So it's back to the way it was. So I'm kind of, it goes from layer 3 to layer 4 and then back to layer 3 again. So it's got this, the motion gets repeated. So now I'm going to try and loop some of these motions. So hold on a second. Let me just double click here. And I'm going to call this layer 5. Okay, so now layer 5 is actually a copy of layer 3. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm going to go back to layer 2. I'm going to unhide it. And I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer. Okay, and I'm going to take this layer 2 copy and I'm going to drag it up on top. So it's above layer 5. And now I'm going to rename it layer 6. I hope you understand what I'm doing. I'm trying to get these motions to loop so that it doesn't have this. I'm going to be creating a GIF, and I don't want there to be a kind of a jerk at the end of the GIF. I want it to rotate smoothly. So now I'm going to call this layer 6. Okay. And now I'm going to go to layer 1. I'm going to do layer, duplicate layer. I'm going to take layer 1 copy. I'm going to move it on top of layer 6. And I'm going to call that layer 7. So all of these are, let's see, let me get everything visible here. All right, so now let me rename layer 1 copy layer 7. Okay, good. Now, let me go through these. So I'm going to just hide all of them except for layer 1. So it goes from layer 1. Now I just want to remind you that every single one of these has the underscore A underscore at the beginning. So it's underscore A underscore layer 1. And that's a code telling the program that these layers are going to be animated. To layer 2, to layer 3, to layer 4, layer 5, which is actually the same as layer 3, layer 6, which is actually the same as layer 2, and layer 7, which is actually the same as layer 1. So the images loop, and they all have that underscore A underscore at the beginning, which is code telling the program that I'm going to use this to animate. So now I'm going to do this. File, export as GIF. So I want to scale it down to 12% because it's very big. So I'm going to hit OK. And let's see what happens. There's my GIF. See how it loops? I can change the speed and make it a little slower. But that's how my GIF is going to look. So now let me show it in folder. I've created a animated GIF of my little dragon, and it loops. And I did it using the touch screen of a Chromebook. The whole thing was created on a Chromebook. So that's a fun little project that you can do if you have one of these Chromebooks that has a touch screen. You don't need a tablet. You don't need to download any software. You can draw it right on the screen. If you want to take your GIF and turn it into a video, all you have to do is pull it into WeVideo and then export it, and it will turn into an MP4. One last thing, and that is that you're going to want to save your file. You're going to hit Save as PSD, which is a Photoshop document, and that will leave all your layers intact. You're going to save as PSD. It's going to be called New Project PSD. You may want to change it. I'm going to call mine Sea Monster. And I'm going to hit Save. And now I have it in my downloads. Now, the thing about a Chromebook is that your downloads can shift around and change. When it runs out of space, it tends to automatically delete files. When you clear your cache, you'll lose your stuff. So you need to have a folder in your Google Drive, and you need to upload that PSD, Photoshop document, PSD, to your Google Drive, thus enabling you to use this character in future projects.